Every year, millions of crayfish and exotic lobsters are transported across borders for farming, research, or even as ornamental pets. Most of them are strictly controlled, but sometimes just one small mistake can trigger consequences beyond imagination. In the state of Texas, USA, that nightmare has already become a reality. The red claw crayfish, scientifically known as Charax quadricarinatus, a species native to the warm rivers of northern Australia, suddenly appeared in massive numbers along the coastal region of Galveston. They don't belong here. And within just one season, this invasive species caused over $6 million in damage, destroying hundreds of aquaculture ponds and crippling the livelihoods of countless coastal farmers. It wasn't a natural disaster. It wasn't pollution. It all began when a few lobsters escaped into the wild, through storms, transportation accidents, or human release. With astonishing reproductive ability, each female can lay up to 500 eggs at a time. The red claw crayfish rapidly spread in their new environment, competing for food, taking over breeding grounds, and attacking weaker native species. Scientists call this phenomenon biological invasion, one of the greatest threats to global ecosystems today. And once such an invasion begins, control becomes almost impossible. So the real questions are, how can such a small creature destabilize an entire coastal economy? Why have our control measures failed to stop it? And can humans, the very cause of the problem, really fix what we've broken? In this video, join me as we uncover the full story, from the origins to the impact and the fight to repair the damage caused by these invasive lobsters. The red swamp crayfish, scientifically known as Procambarus clarkii, is a freshwater crustacean native to the lower Mississippi River basin in the southern United States and northeastern Mexico. Originally, it was found only in rivers, swamps, and shallow lakes, habitats with soft, organic, rich mud and high oxygen levels. In its natural environment, the crayfish plays an important role in the food chain. It feeds on decaying plants, algae, and small bottom-dwelling organisms, helping to clean and recycle nutrients in the water. However, this same adaptability and omnivorous diet have made it one of the most dangerous invasive species in the world once it escaped its native range. Since the early 20th century, humans have introduced the red swamp crayfish to other countries for commercial farming and biological research. The first shipments arrived in Japan in 1927, and from there, the species spread to China, Spain, Italy, Portugal, and dozens of African countries. At first, it was seen as a valuable food source, cheap, easy to farm, and high in protein. But its rapid reproduction soon grew far beyond human control. A single female can lay 300 to 600 eggs per clutch, and the young reach maturity in just 2 to 3 months. More remarkably, they can survive extreme conditions, burrowing up to 1 meter deep, living in shallow or stagnant water, and even enduring several weeks in moist soil when water dries up. This ability allows them to survive the dry season and reproduce explosively once the rains return, creating a self-sustaining cycle that's nearly impossible to stop. When released into the wild in distant countries, the crayfish quickly adapted and spread. In China, where the species was first introduced from Japan in the 1930s, its population exploded at an unprecedented rate. Today, China produces over 90% of the world's crayfish supply, but the country is also facing severe ecological imbalance as a result. Studies have shown that red swamp crayfish destroy irrigation systems, eat native fish eggs, stir up sediment, and spread parasites. In Europe, the story is much the same. During the 1970s, crayfish were imported into Spain to replace native species lost to disease. Yet within a decade, they had spread across the Iberian Peninsula and southern Europe, becoming one of the top threats to freshwater ecosystems. In parts of Italy and France, environmental experts report that crayfish now make up to 80% of all bottom-dwelling biomass, driving native species to the brink of extinction. Even in the United States, their homeland, the situation is troubling. Expanding crayfish farming into non-native regions like California and Texas has led to a reverse invasion, where crayfish compete with local species and cause massive damage to aquaculture farms. They eat fish eggs and shrimp larvae, burrow through pond walls, cause water leakage and erosion, and spread diseases throughout entire systems. A 2023 study by the California Institute of Ecology revealed that just 10 surviving crayfish in an artificial pond can multiply into thousands within a year. Once they escape into natural waterways, controlling them becomes nearly impossible. Today, the red swamp crayfish has been recorded in over 40 countries across Asia, Europe, and Africa. It is officially listed among the 100 world's worst invasive alien species by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN. Ironically, a species once hailed as an economic gift to global aquaculture has now become the cause of hundreds of millions of dollars in annual damage to agriculture, fisheries, levee systems, and reservoirs worldwide. In the state of Texas, the war against the red swamp crayfish isn't fought at sea, but across rice fields and freshwater canals. When this foreign species escaped from experimental farms, it quickly found a new paradise: soft soil, rich mud, and plenty of organic matter. That very environment allowed them to reproduce faster than anyone could react. At first, locals in Texas thought these strange lobsters could be harvested for food. But soon, when burrows began appearing everywhere along the ditches, and when the ground beneath their fields started to collapse, they realized the true danger. The red swamp crayfish can dig tunnels over 1 meter deep. Every night, hundreds of new burrows appear, leaving the soil hollow and fragile. When the rains come, water rushes through these tunnels, eroding the levees and destroying the irrigation systems that farmers spent years building. Worse still, they breed year-round, with no dormant season. Each female can lay 400 to 800 eggs at a time, and within just a few weeks, the young are strong enough to survive on their own. Even a handful of survivors can repopulate an entire area in no time. Spreading at an alarming rate, these crayfish have taken over wetlands, reservoirs, and even infiltrated artificial irrigation systems, clogging waterways and polluting freshwater sources. Farmers in Texas began setting traps, using fish carcasses or dead clams as bait. They could collect thousands in a single day, only to find the ponds filled again by the next morning. The battle to control them soon turned into a never-ending war. Many farmers have abandoned their fields altogether, the cost of restoration too high. The soil weakened, water constantly leaking, crops failing to grow. The damage was no longer just measured in dollars, but in the sweat, time, and hope of an entire community built on the wetlands. One Texas farmer spoke in despair. "We're not fishing for profit anymore. We're fighting to save our land." Yet the crayfish did not stop. No matter how many were trapped, buried, or destroyed, they continued to multiply. And across what was once fertile farmland, all that remains now are hollow burrows, marks of a silent invasion with no end in sight. At the processing stations, pumps roar, coolers hum, and conveyor belts run non-stop to keep the catch fresh before the storm hits. Outside, the wind howls louder, rain lashes the tin roofs, the water keeps rising. But no one stops working. Harvesting crawfish during storm season is a gamble, a battle of precision and endurance. One wrong move, and an entire season's effort could be lost overnight. Refrigerated trucks line up one after another, hauling the crawfish to packaging plants miles away. There, they're sorted by size, chilled, and packed for export to Europe and China, where demand for Louisiana crawfish grows each year. When the storm finally makes landfall, the fields vanish beneath muddy water. Silence settles over the delta. But to the fishermen of Texas and Louisiana, this is nothing new. Here, every harvest is a wager, a test of how much a man can risk against the unpredictable force of nature. Behind every pound of crawfish shipped overseas lies sweat, patience, and the will of people who've learned to live with danger. And when the storm passes, when the waters recede, they'll return. They'll reset the traps, mend the nets, and begin again. Because for them, this isn't just a job. It's a way of life, bound to the land and the water that define who they are. Thanks to this rigorous system, crawfish from Texas and Louisiana now appear on the menus of luxury destinations worldwide, from five-star restaurants in Tokyo and Paris to lavish seafood feasts in Shanghai. A single dish may contain just a few crimson crawfish served on silver platters or black cast iron pots, yet it can cost hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Not just for the flavor, but for what it represents, a union of tradition, technology, and tireless human labor. For diners far away, it's a culinary indulgence. But for the farmers of the southern delta, it's the culmination of a life cycle shaped by sweat and time. From sowing the rice, flooding the fields, setting the traps, to harvesting and shipping across oceans, it's a continuous rhythm between land, water, and people. Those small crawfish, once dismissed as pests, have become a new symbol of America's freshwater economy. They embody not only taste, but also resilience and human ingenuity in harmony with nature. And perhaps, somewhere across the globe, as someone savors the sweetness of that tender meat, they'll never know that behind it were thousands of farmers wading through muddy fields, under the sun, the rain, and the unending seasons of storm. Crawfish are now collected, processed, and exported to China, Japan, and even parts of Europe. Traps are set around rice paddies and irrigation ponds, not to eradicate the species, but to keep it in check. Nature, it seems, has been partially tamed. But that victory is as fragile as the soft mud beneath the water's surface, because nature always follows its own rules. A single off-season rain, an unexpected flood, or a blocked waterway can unleash a new wave of crawfish, spreading through thousands of hectares of farmland, collapsing earthen levees and silting up irrigation channels that took years to build. The truth is, no matter how destructive they may seem, these creatures are still part of nature. They exist because the environment allows it. They thrive because the ecosystem made room for them. The fault doesn't lie with the crawfish. It lies with us, the humans who brought them where they never belonged. Ecologists call it a never-ending war. On one side, human persistence, control, surveillance, and management. On the other, nature's raw instinct, adaptation, endurance, and survival. Today, Texas has found a way to coexist with its invader. People harvest and preserve, exploit and restrain at the same time. The crawfish, once a symbol of invasion, has become a living lesson in ecological balance. But the question remains, have we truly won? Or are we merely living in a moment of uneasy peace while nature silently waits for her turn? Because in the end, humans may control technology, but never nature itself. Every crawfish, every murky current, every layer of river silt, all carry within them the quiet power of renewal. When humans fight against nature, the cost is always immense. But when we learn to live with it, to respect and understand its laws, that is the only victory that truly lasts. From a tiny creature, once buried beneath the silent mud of Southern American rivers, the red swamp crayfish rose, writing a story that forced the entire world to look again. A reminder that nature, no matter how wounded, always finds a way to survive and adapt. But what's truly terrifying isn't their strength. It's our arrogance in thinking we can control nature. This war against invasive species is just the beginning. Out there, thousands of other creatures are quietly reshaping ecosystems, one ripple at a time. Every experiment, every act of farming or harvesting, comes at a price the earth must pay. Nature doesn't need us, but we need it to survive. So remember, when humanity learns to live with nature instead of fighting against it, that's when we truly grow up. If you want to keep exploring mysterious survival stories, from rivers and forests to the endless ocean, subscribe to Harvest 360 and turn on the bell. Because here, every video isn't just a film. It's a 360-degree window into the wild, where every living being, no matter how small, has a reason to exist.